man, deconverted man. Da, 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 da. Oh, hey, how's it going? I'm live. Deconverted lobster man here. What lobster? Where did that come from? Anyways, okay, so I'm waiting on a video to render, and on Twitter, SJ Thompson responded to me about asking her if she'd talk to me again. And I don't know if she will or won't, but I wanted to, I happened to watch the thing where she talked to Matt Dillahunty on the Atheist Experience. So I wanted to talk to her about that stuff. She already wrote a whole blog about that called Common Logical Fallacies and Examples from Social Media. And, it's got some definitions of fallacies that are, they're okay, I guess. We're going to complain about them because they're not great. Okay, so I wanted to cover mostly the argument from ignorance or non-testable hypothesis part of this, because this is what happened on the Atheist Experience. So if you haven't heard the conversation that she had with Dillahunty, I'll post a link to the clip of that, and you should watch that, because otherwise you'll be like, what the bleep are you talking about, Deconverted Man? And then you might want to read the blog, on your own at some point. But it must be responded to. I just, it's got all the things that I must respond to in it. So anyways, I've been considering doing something like Harm Harm, if any of you remember that series, but I can't come up with a good name for it. I mean, this is christian-apologist.com. How can I make that into a thing that I make fun of with the title? CARM, the Christian Apologetic Research Ministry. CARM Harm, it rhymed, it went so well together, but what do I do with this? There's got to be a rhyme or something that my brain's not thinking of. Anyways, if you have an idea, let me know. So argument from ignorance or non-testable hypothesis. So I'll read this, and then I'm going to complain about it. Well, now I've got a live honker here right outside the door. That's great. That's just wonderful. Okay, so real life has intruded upon my making of a video. I'll be right back. This will be great. Maybe I should relaunch this in a second. I don't know. Okay. All right. 0 viewers. All right. I lost my 1 viewer because I went away. Maybe I should restart this. Should I? Nah, I'm going to keep going. Screw it. Okay, so argument from ignorance or non-testable hypothesis. The argument suggests that a proposition is true only because it is not proven to be false. Okay. When I telephoned the Atheist Experience, I was accused of using this fallacy. I had asked Matt Dillahunty the reasons the apostles stopped hiding out and started preaching illegally for Jesus. I said something like, what other reasons could there be for their bravery? Dillahunty responded that I was making an argument from ignorance, since there's no other possible options but mine. My opinion is the answer. Instead of offering a decent answer to my questioning, shut down the argument by claiming I use this fallacious reasoning. This is an example of the fallacy, which I'll explain in detail below. No, it's not an example of the fallacy. You created the fallacy of an appeal to ignorance by saying the statement / question, well, what other reasons are there for this bravery other than the one that I've presented? What else could it possibly be but the one that I want it to be? There's no answer to that question because you've already given the answer. You've already decided that the answer is what you want it to be. So you've committed a fallacy, and there's no reason to go forward. And that's not the fallacy. It's just we're done until you fix your flawed argument. And then when confronted with that fact, and when Dillahunty asked you, do you care about logic? Rather than saying, yes, I do, you proceeded onward with your talking points and refused to answer that particular question. And then that was the end of it, of the phone call, because you wouldn't agree that you had committed the fallacy, and you wouldn't even respond whether or not you cared if fallacies were being used or made. So that is complete, utter misunderstanding of the fallacy and the fact that you did commit an appeal to ignorance by saying, what other reasons could there be for X? That is an example of an appeal to ignorance, even though it's a question, because questions have premises in them as well. So the question, in the way that you asked it, was, by the way, somewhat loaded, but you have asked this, a year ago. That's when you had this talk with Dillahunty, and you've asked it again as part of your 11 questions, and you've asked it other times as well. So it doesn't seem to me that you've actually learned anything about this particular logical fallacy. Well, why did the Christians, do this? Why did they come out of hiding after being persecuted so hard, yada, yada, yada? Any number of possible reasons. And Matt said, maybe they were hungry. That's it. That could be an answer. Maybe they came out of hiding because they ran out of food and they were hungry. Or maybe they came out of hiding because they felt that it was safe to do so. Or any number of possible reasons that you could give. But if those reasons turn out to be reasons that you won't accept, then we have to question why you're asking the question in the first place. So then it goes on. Let me explain why my question is valid and should be thoroughly considered. The apostles preached for decades and risked beatings, imprisonments. Click here for a list of that. Stoning. See Stephen's experience. Crucifixions and torturing. Peter was crucified upside down. James was killed, etc., etc. I'm going to skip all that. I don't care. And then, so all these things are documented in other places, even though they're not really. And then she says, when I've asked Matt Dillahunty and other atheists to explain the apostles' bravery, almost all of them acknowledge that the apostles believed in Jesus. I'm paraphrasing because they believed in Jesus, but they stopped short of admitting exactly what this means. These early Christian martyrs stated that they saw the risen Christ, the risen Jesus, and they risked their lives to share this information with the world. They refused to recant their testimonies and documented aforementioned sources. Okay. Well, again, to answer the loaded question, we're tentatively granting that any of this account has actually happened at all. Period, in the first place, because there's many reasons to doubt the legitimacy of the Bible, let alone the actual events that occurred back in those days. There are many problems to address that, although apologists like to just wave them away and ignore them, are absolutely there. But if we said, okay, fine, we'll tentatively grant all of that to be able to answer the question. And then say something simple like, maybe they came out of hiding to get something to eat. Okay. Well, but then you say, well, but then they were killed and they had this, they all claimed the same thing. Okay. So that's a different kind of question. It's not the question of why they came out of hiding. It's why they continued to say what they thought was true after coming out of hiding. So there's two different questions being answered there, aren't there? But okay. So we're ignoring that fact. If, again, we grant, tentatively speaking, that these people went through whatever torture they went through, And there's very little reason to grant any of that actually happened. But if we did, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make the thing true at all in any way, shape, or form. It just means they believed that it was true. That is the answer. So that's not stopping short of giving an answer. The answer is that they believed it. Why were they so brave? Because they believed it. And then to go from there and say, well, it must be a true thing is a leap of logic that's unsupported. Atheists, I'm reading again. Atheists often state that a willingness to believe in something does not mean the belief is true, which is true. Okay, great. You're on the same page right now, so stop right there. But this is not about a willingness to believe. Yes, it is. It's about the context of the belief itself. Same thing. Doesn't matter what the belief is in. Comparing early Christian martyrs to people who believed in David Koresh or suicide bombers, blah, 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 is comparing apples to oranges. Not really. Muslim terrorists do not claim to have seen Allah. No one makes that claim, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The claim, whatever the claim is, does not magically become true when the claim itself changes. So let's just say that there was some Hindu guy or gal that said their guru could levitate, or heck, forget that. Let's just say that they say that they can levitate. And we're a barbarous society, and we tortured this poor person for the next 20 years, and they do not recant. I have done this. I have levitated. And then one of their followers, or 20 of their followers, or 1,000,000 of their followers show up, and we torture them for 20 years, and none of them recant. Does it make the statement that the guy made true? No, it doesn't, is the answer, by the way. Because it doesn't matter. And it's been shown also that torture is ineffectual, that it doesn't produce the results that we want. It's very bad at extracting information because people either lie or they'll say what you want them to say just to get out of it. And then the few times they do tell the truth, you don't even know anyways, because how do you know it's true? So you just keep torturing them until they die, or you have to stop for whatever reason. Maybe you get tired. And the fact is that if we had some sort of graph that showed, well, the average amount of people that get tortured tend to not recant, but on the one side of the bell curve, there's a few people who do recant, then there shouldn't be any surprise that the majority of people who were very strong believers would not recant. It's not magical. It's not supernatural. It's human behavior. It's human psychology. It's easily understood. It doesn't make the thing that happened real or true. And just trying to say, well, but it's different because what they're saying is different. No, it's not different at all. The content of the belief is irrelevant. So, okay, now to go back, see what's up with what's happening, guys. Yada, 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 sits her thinking to myself. What? Hello, humans, BRB. That's what's going on in chat. Although I've only got one viewer, which that doesn't make any sense. How do I have 4 people or 3 people in chat, but not more? What the bleep is going on? I don't know. But yeah, so and this trope, by the way, I've seen other apologists do this, that the content of the belief matters more than what it is that they, well, just because somebody says this, and then they won't recant and whatever, says the content, it's what they believe in matter. No, it doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. But they said that they saw this thing, and the other people don't say that they saw a thing. If they do say that they saw a thing, Does that change anything at all? No, it doesn't. It can't. So it just doesn't matter. All right, so that's all I got, I guess. This was very off the cuff, and had an interruption, so that kind of yeah. Okay, fine, I'll do that example. Okay, so the Native Americans and the Jewish people during Crusade times would not recant what they believed. Oh, but they didn't claim to have seen the risen Christ or whatever. That, again, doesn't matter what they're claiming. The fact is they didn't recant. At least the majority didn't. Maybe a few did on the wayside of the bell curve. But that then shows us that there's a pattern of humans who will not recant ideas upon being inflicted with torture and or death. So that means that this is not an adequate logical way to determine whether or not something is true. Doesn't matter if somebody won't give up on saying that it is true upon torture or death or whatever else you want to throw at them. That doesn't change it. That's not a way to find out if it is or isn't true. And so this is and continues to be an appeal to ignorance and also potentially a non-testable hypothesis. Because basically you're saying, well, the only way that they would not relent is if the thing that they were saying was true. That's just silly. You don't know that. You can't know that. So it appears that, you know, throughout a year's time that nothing has been learned. But that doesn't really surprise me because apologetics tend to not learn anything new, because if they did, they would stop being apologetics. That's all I got for you guys, gals, and whoever else. Goodbye for now. Lobsters exist.